Welcome to This Explainer. I'm delivering this to you as a desperate warning, echoing straight from the cold, silent depths of Alaric's own making. Today, we're going to deconstruct the exact mechanics of absolute dominion, because before this scholar could master the world, he had to descend into the crypts of his own ambition.
Speaking as a survivor currently trapped in the freezing imagery of his Library of Echoes, I want to show you exactly how a true master of the void turns your own imagination against you. As Alaric realized, the human mind is a frantic architect. When you're given nothing but a cold, empty gaze, like a winter moon, your own mind starts building the elaborate scaffolds of your ruin.
So, how does a scholar strip away his soul to conquer the world? Well, let's dive into this terrifying question by looking at the 3 prologues of Alaric's psychological transformation. These events set the stage for him to become an untouchable mastermind, and we're going to look at the exact steps he took to literally erase his humanity.
Which brings us to Act I, the price of the altar.
Before Alaric could architect our ruin, he was almost destroyed by a failed rebellion. This was a time before he understood that power actually demands a physical manifestation of blame. In Stage 1, he stood in the ruins of this rebellion, the commoners' pitchforks literally scraping at his gates. Stage 2 hit him hard. He realized the truth is a heavy stone that simply sinks its bearer. So to survive this rising tide of peasant rage, he moved to Stage 3. He found a way to redirect the lightning of their hatred toward a target of his own choosing. He brilliantly transformed his own looming execution into a theater of calculated purification.
Moving right along to Act 2, Forging the Hollow Mask.
This is where things get truly dark. Realizing that a human face with an expression is merely a target for a blow, Alaric retreated into the darkness to fashion a new persona at the Forge of the Hollowed Soul. This was a deliberate, mechanical process. Step 1, he watched his peers get completely undone by lust, anger, and the desperate need to be known, so he systematically stripped those vulnerabilities away. Step 2, he decoupled his persona entirely from his spirit. By Step 3, he emerged not as a man with a heart, but as a vessel of pure adaptive utility.
The visual and psychological contrast here is absolutely terrifying. You have the human scholar on one side, driven by a desperate need to be known, entirely vulnerable to the jagged landscape of the immortal court, and on the other side, the hollowed vessel. He hammered out his humanity to become this bone-white mask of pure utility, totally emptied out and ready to wear whatever facade was required to survive.
Now let's look at Act 3, the vampire's elegant seduction.
With his heart safely decoupled, he spent years in the silent chamber of the Library of Echoes. This is where he practiced the art of the void. He spent years observing how men would tremble when their questions were met with a gaze as cold and empty as a winter moon. He resolved right then and there to never again provide enemies with the ammunition of his words. Let their imaginations do all the heavy lifting.
And as he stepped out into the world, he realized brute force is basically useless compared to the elegance of seduction. Notice the contrast here with standard warfare. Instead of breaking down doors and creating the friction of conflict, Alaric mastered the vampire's invitation. Think about it. Power is a threshold. Like a wraith that cannot enter unbidden, he crafts his glamorous facade that mirrors his prey's deepest desires. He makes the prey literally unlatch their own doors, foolishly inviting in a parasite. Which leads us to Act 4, Hiding in the King's Shadow.
Look, even an elegant predator has to survive the dark sorcery masters above him, right? You can't just conquer the weak. You have to survive the strong. Revealing your full brilliance acts as a giant lightning rod for a master's insecurity. As the quote says, outshining the one holding your leash is practically begging for an accidental curse or a swift trip to the gallows.
So, Alaric mastered the King's Shadow. It's this brilliant strategy of lethal humility. Just as the moon possesses no light of its own, but still commands the massive tides, he made absolutely sure he never eclipsed the throne. By masking his genius behind flattery, he let his superiors feel like the blazing, all-powerful sun, while he quietly manipulated the shadows they cast. Honestly, it's a survival tactic anyone navigating a ruthless corporate hierarchy today can instantly recognize.
Let's turn to Act 5, the Necromancer's Silent Puppet.
This brings us to the ultimate, horrifying culmination of his detached persona. Imagine moving through the world like a puppeteer in a gallery of ghosts. The detachment he forged at the Hollowed Soul perfectly enabled him to execute the Necromancer's puppet strategy.
stripped of all his humanity. He effortlessly treated ambitious rivals as mere meat shields for his proxy wars, animating them as his completely expendable cat's paws to handle the grim tasks.
And because of these puppet tactics, the architect gets to stand amidst absolute carnage with pristine authority. He animates lesser beings, deflects all the blowback onto them, and watches them take the fall. While everyone else's hands are stained with the blood of his machinations, he walks away with perfectly clean hands, robes as white as bone, and a reputation as silent as the grave.
Finally, we arrive at the epilogue, the price of absolute dominion.
As this explainer draws to a close, and as I broadcast this warning from the freezing depths of his library, we really need to look at the complete architecture of his power. Look at how perfectly his internal descent to the void maps to his external, predatory tactics. The forge of the hollowed soul enabled the necromancer's puppet. The utter coldness of the Library of Echoes gave birth to the vampire's invitation. And surviving that near death at the altar, that taught him the absolute necessity of the king's shadow. These are the exact frameworks that left victims like me in complete ruin.
So, which of these prologues do you feel sets the most ominous tone for the wizard's eventual descent into the 48 Laws? I leave you with this final thought as you navigate your own courts and face your own ambitious rivals. Look closely at the path Alaric walked. Is the scholar of the mind simply protecting his own interests, wielding a necessary shield to survive a highly hostile world? Or has the Hollow Mask permanently become the villain, wielding a predatory weapon? Stay sharp out there, remember these lessons, and whatever you do, don't let yourself become just another ghost in the library.